Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiera with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for Iyanla Fix My Life Season 7, Episode 8, which is titled When Dirty Laundry Goes Viral. Thanks so much for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with somebody who you think will enjoy it. Also, be sure to follow me on social media, and you can find those links in the description box. You all see my shirt? It says fat ass, badass. If you're interested in purchasing this shirt, you can visit my online store called biggirlbody.com. I have shirts that are centered around body positivity, body neutrality, and around just kind of like womanhood in general. So if you're interested in checking out any of my graphic t-shirts, mugs, or tote bags, and I do have some hoodies as well, feel free to go to biggirlbody.com to grab those. So I am going to do this video differently. Usually I take notes. Don't really feel like taking notes today. This is a really long episode. So I'm just going to watch a little bit of the show and then come tell you all what I think and then do that over and over again until we make it through the episode. So whatever. So let's go ahead and hop into this. This video features a family of like 8 or so. There's a dad whose name I'm not going to do names. Usually when I take notes, I'm able to keep track of names. But since I'm not taking notes this time, we're just going to go off of what position they are in the family, I guess. So we have a dad who apparently went viral and got over 1 million views on a video of him talking about how his wife has never paid a bill, and that's how he has taken care of his castle as the king, pretty much. He has 5 children. There are 2 twins, 2 daughters, and 1 son. The son is 17 and has gotten into multiple physical altercations with his father. All of the children basically say that their father has been there for them financially, but not in the way of emotionally, and not really having a connection with them. The wife feels like there was a lot of backlash about the type of video that he made, and that I don't know, I think she thinks it painted her in a bad light and she was not happy with it. We also have an older woman who I don't know whose mom she is. She's probably the father's mom, so she's the grandma of the family. And so everybody comes in. Everybody starts to throw pieces of laundry into the laundry basket, talking about the things that they want to air out in the family. And the first the first problem that I see, I felt like nobody was being very specific or descriptive of the types of things that they wanted to throw in the basket. Only one of them mentioned something that was really specific about the fact that they all live separately and live apart allows them to continue with the issues instead of dealing with it, which I think is very specific. But everybody else was like, yeah, I just want to air out the issues. And the dad mentioned, some issues about respect and disrespect and all that type of stuff. But, hopefully they can get down to the nitty gritty. And now the next point, Iyanla separates everybody. And she talks to the father by himself. And she said something that I thought was really good and could really be useful for a lot of people, is that men believe that they have a throne just off the fact that they have a penis. Like, there's a sense of entitlement that goes along with patriarchy, right? That says that as a man, you are entitled to this, you are entitled to power, and because you are, society says that you are the provider, money equals power, so that's another element, and because of that, you deserve or entitled to a certain amount of respect from everyone around you, and you are, for lack of a better term, you are God. You are king in your castle. And the thing that Iyanla did was create these like steps that had certain character traits on them. that go towards the throne. And she basically said to him, "You are claiming this throne. You are claiming that that throne belongs to you, and you are living as if you have that throne when you are not. You have not fulfilled the qualifications to get there, because having a throne is not just about having a penis, not just about being a financial provider. Having a throne is about having character traits that make you worthy of the throne. Character traits that you have worked on so that you earn the throne." And so I thought that was really good. And that's the point where I'm at right now. So I'll be back. All right, now I had to go get my glasses so I can see better, but whatever. Anyway, so now we are back with Iyanla, and good Lord, I can't remember the man today, but the dad, the father of the house. And I will say, I feel like there's really not much there. Besides what I've already talked about. Essentially, he grew up in a time and in a situation where he didn't have a father figure. So he has believed and made up in his mind that that the vision of what a man is supposed to be is provider and protector, and that he took on that role early because he wanted to protect his mom. And Iyanla believes, and I think that she's accurate in this, that his identity is so wrapped up in what he can provide for his family and how he has protected protected his family from, that he has not done the inner work of actually figuring out who he is. So yeah, he also talked about the issues that he's gotten into with his youngest son. And that, he's gotten physical and basically saying, everything my son has come from me, and he couldn't stay at my house anymore. He had to go stay with his grandmother since he wanted to put, his hands on me. So now Iyanla's getting ready to talk to the wife, whose name is Jamil, I think. And we also find out that the 4 oldest kids, are not hers. The only 2 that she has biologically are the 2 youngest ones. And that he doesn't really necessarily listen to her or allow her to, Iyanla said, like, allow her to give counsel or something like that when it comes to the kids. So we'll get her perspective in just a minute. All right, let's get back into this. So we're sitting down with the wife talking about the history of the husband and wife's love story. Come to find out, there wasn't one. They fell into a common situation where they were dating, they were hooking up a lot, having a lot of sex, as the wife said, and she ended up getting pregnant. And because of the way that they thought family was supposed to be and the people that they were supposed to be, they fell into a situationship, but with legal papers. So essentially, she was saying, I don't want to abort this baby. He was saying, I don't want to be a baby daddy, even though he was a baby daddy to like 4 other kids at that point, I guess. Right? So anyways, they end up getting married, and she reveals that she kind of didn't love him until years later. So she also revealed that she lives with all 3 of his personalities, and that the thug has shown up more than she has wanted it to. And then we get to the topic of the viral video. And so what was interesting is that from the little bit that I saw of the viral video, it did come across as if he invalidated her contributions and her career, because from just listening to what he said and the clip that I saw, my wife is a housewife. That was my assumption. And then she said, I've been a public school educator for, 16 years? And now I'm an assistant principal. I mean, she has a job molding the young minds of kids. And we all know teachers don't get paid a lot of money, right? Especially public school teachers. However, she is contributing to society in a way that's different than a housewife is. And she has a career and she is bringing in income into, the household. So I do feel like I agree with her that it was an invalidation of her contributions to the house. And again, nothing is wrong with being a housewife either. It's just the way he said it, it created a perception that she was just lazing around the house, or that she was just taking care of the house, in a housewife situation, and he was providing everything. So, yeah, I don't want this to be a condemnation of. I don't want you all to think that I am against women being housewives. I think you could do whatever you want to do within, whatever you agree with in your relationship. It's just the way he put it. It had this negative connotation around it. So I hope I'm making sense on that. But anyways, so we cut to Dr. Perry talking to the husband. And Dr. Perry tells him, this is what I saw when I saw the video. I saw a man showing his daughters how they should be treated by a man. I also saw you trying to do a reversal of the things that were not provided to you. And I also saw this disconnection between what the world says a man should be versus how you feel on the inside. And I think Iyanla is just super smart, or very intuitive, to know that she could not provide the type of education that Dr. Perry is providing to the husband, because hearing it from Iyanla is different from hearing it from another man. And he seemed very open and receptive to learning from this other man, and it felt very respectful. And I think Iyanla definitely made the right move in having Dr. Perry there as somebody to back up her work with the men in the family. So I thought that was great. So yeah, let's move on. All right, so we're back. We talked a little bit about the father's interactions with his sons, with his son rather, and how everything in the house is transactional, which is very interesting because I have had similar conversations with my fiance about that being a small part of our relationship. Um, and by transactional, it's if you do this, you'll get this, or if you don't do this, I'll withhold this from you, things along those lines. So I really identified with that. Um, and I think a big part of it is probably control, and this idea that I, because I have the power in this transaction, that I get to have a certain amount of control over you, because of that. So I thought that was a really good observation, and it made a lot of sense considering how much being a provider means to the dad. We also talked a little bit about how Dr. Perry was talking to the father about how he needs to breathe and how he needs to actually think about his feelings so that he doesn't go off, and, actually listens to hear instead of listening to respond, which I think is great. We also talk about with the wife saying that 12 years ago he choked me, and Iyanla was like, 12 years ago? That's a long time. Um, but the wife says this is around the time that the breakdown happened, and I don't want to be married like this anymore. And she says she's open to see if the marriage can be healed, but she honestly doesn't know if that's what she wants. And I get that. I get that. We'll have to see whether or not their marriage survives the situation. But we'll see what we come up with next. So, real quick, things are about to get really heated on the show, so I figured I'd pause and stop right there. But Iyanla talks to the wife and basically says the work that we have to do is to figure out whether you have been hoeing yourself out for this relationship or whether your husband has broken your heart and you haven't been honest with him. So, part of their work is basically figuring out if the wife wants to stay with the husband. So, Iyanla has her write down a few sentences to complete. When I, think about staying married to my husband, when I think about leaving my husband, and if I were to tell the whole truth, this is what I would say. So, that's the first part. With the wife. Then the husband with Dr. Perry, they're going to figure out how to do active listening, which is a big part. I think it goes a long way to figure out how to communicate with the rest of his family in a way that is not volatile, that does not show the thug in him, and that also will allow him to create relationships with his kids that are not based on here's what I do for you, so here's what I expect from you. So, things are about to get crazy on the show because I actually saw this preview. So I'll get back to y'all on this. All right, y'all. So things, of course, got crazy. We have the two twins who come in and basically say that Ashley, who is, I think, the third daughter, got into a disagreement with Shanae. Both of the twins claim that Ashley was coming after Shanae, and they get into a big disagreement. Ashley is bigger and apparently a more experienced fighter than the twins because she says, neither one of you all can F with me. And they did not deny that fact, okay? They actually leaned into that. So it appears that Ashley has figured out a way to use her brawn to intimidate her sister. So that's one thing. We see Ashley, who believes that her sisters are there to get famous, that she doesn't really have a relationship with her sisters, and that she really is there at Iyanla Fix My Life to develop a relationship with her father. The sisters, while they are still, the other sisters, the youngest one I think is Jaden, and the twins, while they're still in the room, and Iyanla has taken Ashley outside, Jaden brings something up about there being jealousy. And Ashley mentions when she's outside with Iyanla that the twins came to live with us when they were 14 years old. I was raised by my dad the whole time, and I feel like they are closer to him than I am. So there's this, the jealousy that they brought up, I think that is real. And Ashley is just really hurt. And initially, I thought the twins were very shut down and did not, there was really no emotion. It was like they were talking to somebody off the street and not their sister. And I think that was pretty hurtful. It came across as if we're gonna jump this person because she's bigger than us. And it doesn't matter that we have the same dad. It doesn't matter that we are related. She's just a person off the street. So everybody's hurt and betrayed and whatnot. And so Iyanla comes back into the room. She gets the youngest person to go outside, Jaden, to go outside with Ashley. And Iyanla sits down and talks to the twins. And Iyanla across the board is telling everybody it's not okay for you to speak that way to each other. It's not okay. The twins have a really I don't give a F attitude that's annoying and does not look good on them personally. From my viewpoint, it's very, Iyanla saying you don't get to talk to your younger sister who's a black woman like that. And, oh, well, she should hold herself as a, black woman that deserves respect or whatever. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What the heck is going on? Eventually, they get down to the root of their issues. I feel like they were putting up a front. And after talking with Iyanla for a little while, we figure out that they all feel hurt and betrayed by the family, and that a lot of their root issues come from their mother, or I guess the absence of their mother in their lives. So I haven't watched that part yet, so I will get back to you all. So Iyanla gets one of the daughters to talk to an imaginary version of her mother, speak her feelings, gave her a hall pass. It was riddled with expletives, but it was very illuminating. It was very truthful and honest. You could tell that her twin felt those same, had those same experiences. It was essentially what it sounded like was that their mother was very bitter and upset and vindictive about their father. So much so to the point where she didn't feed her children, which is nuts. And that they feel like their mom screwed them up and that they don't ever want to be like her. And so Iyanla steps into that role, pretending to be their mother and basically suggesting that forgiveness was the key to their healing, and saying if all you had to do was to forgive your mother in order to heal, would you do it? And she didn't make her answer that question right away, but a lot of times we as people, if we feel like we are wronged, I'll do I statements, all right? As a person, if I feel like I have been done wrongly, sometimes it's more valuable to be addicted to this story of somebody hurt me as opposed to letting it go. It's in some ways favorable for me to come across as a victim, as opposed to a person who's forgiven and moved on. And the reason why I say this is I think society has gotten to a point where we praise pettiness, and that forgiving somebody and letting something go comes across as weakness, which, to me is not true. And so the point that I'm trying to make right now is that I know and understand the power of forgiveness. I know and understand also that it, depending on the depth of the hurt, depending on how recent the hurt was, depending on how close the person was to you that hurt you, sometimes it's easier for me to hold on to that hurt as opposed to letting it go. Because letting it go means that I'm letting that person off the hook. And Iyanla said something interesting, and she was saying forgiveness is not about forgiving your parent. It's not about the twins forgiving their mom. It's about them granting themselves freedom, signing your own freedom papers to be free from the bondage of being in this unhealed place. And I thought that was really powerful, and I hope that the twins really understand that forgiveness really is the key to freedom. And I've experienced that myself. So, yeah. So, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the dad is behind the scenes watching all of this unfold. And a lot of it is falling into his lap because the daughter said the reaction that you just saw the interaction that you just saw between the twins and Ashley is a direct result of how we have been treated by our father, who throws things at us, who calls us the B word. His mother calls us the B word and has thrown things before. Everything that we're doing falls in his lap, and he did not like that. His reaction when they were in the moment was like, when they see me, I step in and I stop that type of behavior. He did not see himself in that situation and them learning that behavior from him. Hearing them say that you're the reason why we act this way, when he sees himself as the reason why they stop acting that way, is directly in conflict with each other. And I felt when I saw him and his reaction to them saying, this is how you taught us to be, I think I saw anger. um, I think he saw like responsibility that he hadn't taken. And I think that he's coming to realize that he is less deserving of the throne than he thought he was. So let's move forward and move on. All right, y'all. This next part hurt my feelings a little bit. So, I'm trying to remember where I left off, but the sisters all come back together. Everybody's a little calmed down. Everybody's a little introspective. And the twins agree to apologize to Ashley for the way that they acted. And recognize that apologizing or asking for forgiveness is not about being fake. Iyanla said the things that came out of the twins' mouths were speaking from a hurt place. And you don't get to hurt people just because you are hurt. And I think that that is a great realization, that speaking from a hurt place is not who you are, it's where you are in that moment. And if I'm speaking from a place where I'm not supposed to be, and I'm speaking from a place that's healed, that's the real me. But if I'm speaking from a place that's hurt, it's on me to apologize and correct that, because that's not really who I am. It's just where I am in that moment. So I thought that was really good. And when Ashley and Jalen, I don't know why I can't get this girl's name right. I think it's Jalen, come back in. The twins apologize and ask for forgiveness. And Ashley is, of course, apprehensive because she already thinks that they're being fake. But Iyanla says to her, your sisters are trying to do things differently, so you need to meet them halfway, which I agree with. So Iyanla starts to make the point that as elders, these sisters need to look out for their little sister, to make sure that they can come to her whenever she's having issues. And, because if you all aren't there for her, somebody could violate her. And then Iyanla, with her powers of perception, sees something in the room that I didn't realize, but something was communicated non-verbally in the room that Iyanla picked up on. And apparently, right before they came to this Iyanla experience, Jalen revealed to them that she had been sexually molested multiple times when she was 7 or 8 years old. Come to find out, all 4 of the daughters have had some form of sexual molestation. And Ashley says, my dad prides himself on being the type of man who was there for us, but he didn't know what was going on. And that they were so worried about who he was as a thug that none of them told him about being sexually violated because they were trying to protect him. And Dr. Perry tells the father, you can't have it both ways. You can't label yourself as the protector and the thug and then feel like your daughter should come to you in vulnerable moments. You can't have it both ways. You can't be the guy who pops off at any moment and make it impossible for your children to tell you anything without you popping off, and then get mad that they don't come to you. And so that's one of the things that I think about as a child, and why I didn't really tell my parents things as I was growing up. It wasn't so much to protect them, because neither of my parents is a pop-off type of parent. It's just like, what type of environment or communication are you creating with your child? Are you creating an environment where they can come to you to tell you anything? Or are you going to flip your wig every time you hear something, and you create these negative incentives so that they don't come to you anymore? So I hated seeing how hurt the daughters were. I think I dropped a tear or two. I hated seeing how hurt the father was. And again, I think he's realizing a lot of this falls into his lap. And I think that Dr. Perry being there is a good way of him recognizing what his role is in this and how he can do it differently. So this was actually a really intense part of the show, and I think that the sisters kind of bonded in this moment, and I thought that was really good. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the daddy real quick. So, it's the apparently the end of the day. Iyanla comes back in to talk with the dad and Dr. Perry, and he is obviously emotional, and those emotions appear negative and rooted in anger or rage. Um, and Iyanla basically tells him, "Your daughters are in trouble because you're in trouble," and the fact that they were not willing to tell you that they were violated because of fear of what you would do is very telling about who you are as a person, and your rage that's uncontrollable, right? So it's the next day. Iyanla and the husband are talking. He seems more calm and he seems ready to accept responsibility. Um, I feel like this is probably the first time that he has gotten to hear from an honest viewpoint of how his kids view him, how his kids look at him. And when you create an environment where your kids don't feel comfortable speaking to you or speaking truth to you because they are afraid of what you will withhold from them, or they are afraid of your anger, it doesn't allow them to be honest. And I think this is the first time that he's hearing them be honest with him, and he has to accept that these things rest on his shoulders. And he seemed ready to take responsibility for those things when he talked to Iyanla the next day. And he was saying, seeing how I have taught them to behave, seeing how my behavior and the way I go after my sons is the same way that the twins went after Ashley. Seeing that he needs to be a better listener. I think that he really was open to the process and open to changing and open to doing things differently, because clearly the way he was doing things wasn't working. And I think Iyanla's talk about core belief is interesting, because I think what she was saying, or what I gathered from what she was saying, was that the core belief for him is that being a man is about being a provider, right? So his core belief is saying, no matter how much I gave to my kids, things are still messed up in the family. So something must be wrong with me, because my perception of what it means to be a man of this, the man of this family, is destroying the family. So something is wrong with me, because my core belief about what a man is supposed to be is not yielding the result that I'm supposed to see. So that's what I took away from the core belief thing that Iyanla was talking about. But let's see what happens next. I think it's time for us to address the issues with Jordan, who is the youngest son. Whew. All right, y'all. So it's on to the son's issues, which are just as bad, if not worse, than the issues with the daughters. We have Jordan, who is 17 years old, who is at a point where he just does not care about anything. We have Iyanla talks to the son, and he's very one word answers, one word replies, almost to the point of where if he talked to my mother the way he responded to Iyanla, my mother would say he was being disrespectful. I don't know how much that counts for, because if you breathe wrong in my family, it's disrespectful. So at least that was my experience as a child. But anyways, he was very terse. And I think Iyanla recognized that as a symbol of him being hurt, a manifestation of him being hurt by his father. So I think she did not reprimand him for the cadence of his responses. So moving on, he's basically said he recounted all of the times that he got into physical altercations with his father, which I think was 3 times. He called his father a a-hole. He said his father was rude, that he, pretty much got to the point where he felt like his father did not and was not going to change, right? So that's where he is. That's where his stance is. And he just came across as really resistant. And I can't say that I blame him per se, but he is speaking from a hurt place. And I think it is conceivable that he actually does care but doesn't want to, based on some of the things that Dr. Perry was saying, how, for men, expressing vulnerability is very difficult. Um, and his father even said that when I was around his age, I felt that same way. So he says that he is not modeling himself after his father, but he is turning into his father. And that's the way it goes. First off, you can't model your idea of manhood off of yourself, because that's not how it works. That's just not how it works. You can't model yourself after he didn't even say, like, if he said Barack Obama, that would make more sense than saying I model manhood off of myself. But it's like, you're not a man yet, so what are you modeling yourself after? But the point is, regardless of who he modeled himself after, if he's modeling himself after himself, and who he is a direct result of who his father is, he's going to turn into his father anyway. Does that make sense? I am who my father made me to be. So if I model myself after myself, I turn into my father. That's a major, mind, like, that's crazy to even think about in that type of way. But anyways, so Dr. Perry comes out to talk to the son, and Dr. Perry has a way of connecting with Jordan in a way that Iyanla wasn't able to. And he also says, I have spent some time with your father. I think that he would agree with you that he has been rude. I think that we need to do things differently. And are you coachable? And I think he was able to kind of get through to Jordan a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. Next up, we see the sisters are at the table having tea. I don't know what the thing is with Iyanla and tea. Tea ain't that good, but they're about to have an interesting conversation. So let's see. All right, now real quick. So the sisters sit down and have tea. Not much there, so let's move on. We see Miss Jamil, who I actually forgot about, but is the wife. And there's some realizations that come about since she last talked to Iyanla. She realized that she stuck around for the money. So Iyanla says there's some hoes in this house. If you see him, point them out. And basically she was saying that, Jamil accepted less than what she deserved in exchange for security, in exchange for comfort, and that makes her a hoe. So I think Jamil accepted that, and is coming to realize, and has, admitted to being an abused woman, and tricked herself into believing that because he went to therapy a few times that, things had gotten better. But just because things got better doesn't mean they're good. So we also see Iyanla take her over to the throne room. It's Game of Thrones up in here. And we see the path that he needs to walk before he can get to the throne. And Jamil says something that is really interesting, and a good realization is that she doesn't think that she can help him get there. She is broken down. She is tired. She has been with him for years. She's had 2 children with him. She's accepted his 4 children. He has choked her. He has verbally abused her, financially abused her, I'm assuming, as well. And she just, I don't think she has it in her. And Iyanla says, in order for you to make this relationship work, you have to check back in after having checked out for years. And I really, she's saying, I don't have it in me to do that. I don't have it in me to not only check back in and be active in this relationship, but also hold him accountable and provide him counsel so that he can get to the point where he has the throne. And I think that's a powerful realization. Like, sometimes we just want to stay in things just to stay in them, or stay in them because we have, stay in things just because we've been in there for a long time. And that's the sunk cost fallacy, that because we have invested so much time, or because we have invested so much money into things, that we should see them out and ride them out. And sometimes the smartest thing to do is say, that's time I can't get back. That's money I can't get back. I need to cut my losses now. And so I think she's at the point where she is about to cut her losses, and get out of Dodge. She's still relatively young. She's actually 13 years younger than he is. And I think she's in a good position that if she ever wanted to be in another serious relationship and get married again, she can do that. So, we'll see, how things go. Oh, y'all. All right. So we're at a point where husband and wife sit face to face. We already know that Jamil is over. Jamil wants out. I feel that we haven't seen the husband's attention in the show has been focused on his children, and he hasn't talked much about his wife. And I think he was in a space where I am taking responsibility for how things have gone wrong in my relationship as far as it goes to my kids. And the fact that his kids will always be his kids and they will always be in his life. And I think that he thought that translated to his wife. The difference is that his wife has a choice as to whether or not she wants to be with him, and has a choice to say, after these years and years that I've experienced of abuse, whether or not I want to stick around. And I think he took for granted that she would make a choice to leave. So they go throughout this process. Iyanla's there to support Jamil. Dr. Perry's there to support the husband. They have a conversation. She admits that she's an abused woman. She says that I don't even feel right telling our kids how to be in relationship with, their romantic partners, when our relationship is such a piss poor example of how, relationships are supposed to go. I feel fatigued. I feel weak. I feel stagnant in our relationship. And if I stay in it, I'm going to die. And you can see it building up in him. And what the interesting part to me was that as he was saying to her that you deserve so much more, and you deserve everything that's on God's green earth, or however he put it, it came across as still material things. That's the way I saw it. It wasn't, you deserve to be loved. You deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve to not be abused, or you deserve to feel safe. It was, you deserve the things of this earth. You deserve material possessions. That's the way it came off to me. And it came across as if he was still thinking in terms of financial support and material things, as opposed to providing a safe space so that she could share her heart with him. So there were moments where Dr. Perry had to tell, him to calm down. Like, hey, chill out a little bit. You're raising your voice. You're getting upset. And there was a point where he says, I'm ready and willing to give up the fight. And at this point, he's still thinking that he's going to have his wife by the end of this process, right? She tells him, I'm going to die if I stay in this marriage. And I don't think I can support you in becoming the man that you want and need to become. And he was not expecting that. And it's not funny, but it's a little funny because I think men just take for granted that their women are going to be there. And as women, we are taught to be long suffering and taught to be patient and taught to stick around and be there for our men through all of their crap. And she got to the point where she was not having it anymore. And he was shocked by that and surprised. And again, it's not funny because nobody wants to laugh or make light of the demise of a relationship because that's not cool, right? But however, I think that it is interesting at how this kind of came off. And the really interesting part about it, and that was really actually kind of sad, was when she finally says, we don't need to be married anymore. Something happened where her eyes rolled back in the back of her head and something was not right. So Iyanla asked for 5 minutes. They get up, they go to another room, and she just breaks down. And I think it's probably years of built up and pent up things that she had never said to her husband. It's years of feeling ashamed, or years of feeling like she wasn't courageous enough to leave, years of feeling like I have to stick around with this person who's abusing me. And she just really broke down, and I think that she really needed it. Like, for whatever reason, I really like felt her in that moment, and felt this genuine emotional breakdown. So we'll see what happens next. Because according to this preview of what's coming up in the rest of the episode, it looks like the husband is going to go on the defense and accuse Dr. Perry of going a place where he didn't want to go or something like that. We'll see. All right. Now, something weird has happened, and based on context clues, it appears that before the show aired, husband and wife had a conversation that we're not going to touch on this single topic, which apparently was divorce. Even though they had talked about divorce before. Apparently, the husband contacted the wife via text message to basically say, I thought we said we weren't going to talk about that. And both of their responses were a little weird. Let me tell y'all something. When we think about the term agreement comes from a place where you have two people who are in a position to come to a conclusion together and have the same mind about it. Agreements get a little iffy if one person is exerting power over another to get them to come to that agreement. It's not really an agreement. It feels more coerced rather. So my position on it, or what I think happened, is that he's so used to being in control and using his maleness and his providerness to exert control that he basically got his wife to agree to not being completely honest during the whole process. And she wanted to be honest and open, and she wanted to actually heal from this, from the issues that they were having. So she went ahead and did it anyway, and being honest with herself. And I think he's mad because he feels like, how dare she not honor the agreement that she made under duress? That's my perspective on what has happened. Again, one of the things she said before is, I pick the battles that I fight. And that sounds to me like a battle that she chose not to fight when the agreement was made, but then she chose to fight it in the moment when the cameras were on. And I think that he's more upset about the fact that she talked about it on camera, which I feel is stupid, because I don't know how much the reason why they're here is because he had a video that went viral on Facebook. So you get to say whatever you want to say on Facebook and air our dirty laundry and talk about me like I don't do anything or provide anything financial for our family. But when it's my turn to get on TV, I can't say what I want to say, and you have control over this topic that we can't touch on. Please, like, build a bridge and get over it. Let this woman speak her truth, even if that means her truth is leaving you. And it felt weird because Jamil is talking to Iyanla, and now it's coming across as if things get better, if things we can work on it, maybe we can be together. And it's like, which one is it? I understand that divorce is a very hard decision, and I'm not trying to minimize that at all. But in one moment, she seemed really sure, and now she doesn't. After she's having a conversation with her husband, now she doesn't. And I don't know what the deal is. I'm not sure. But Dr. Perry is talking to the husband. He talks about feeling hurt, feeling a little humiliated, and feeling like his wife betrayed him or whatever. And it's like, if betraying you means she betrayed herself, it's better that she betray you. Because Iyanla was saying to her, you have this ring, you have these rings, you're wearing these rings, but you have checked out of what these rings have meant. And what are you teaching to your daughters? What are you teaching to your granddaughters? To have this ring and have no sense of yourself, no sense of who you are as an individual. So that was a weird situation. That was really weird. I don't know what the deal is. With that. That's really strange. But anyways, Dr. Perry and the husband end up talking about, let's pivot to having a conversation with Jordan. And let's figure out how to be vulnerable and how that will help to change the relationship. So that's where we're going now. And also in the preview of what's coming up next, we see that the youngest wants to address the oldest, who we haven't had an opportunity to talk with at all, who is one of the grandparents. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So I finally figured out the dad's name was Mark. After this episode is like 10 minutes away from being over. But anyway, so Mark and Jordan sit down. And actually, wait, Dr. Perry and Jordan talk first. They talk about the metaphor of the different characteristics in the throne. He talks a little bit about where he thinks his father falls short on those characteristics. And Dr. Perry uses that moment to draw parallels between who Mark is and who Jordan is. And basically saying, when we talk so much and when we feel so strongly about not being the way that people were to us, we end up falling into that anyway. And he drew a lot of parallels between how his father was and his experience of his father, and how he experienced Mark as well. So they sit down to have a conversation. Mark is still very nonchalant and apprehensive and is not showing a lot of vulnerability in his face. But as his father's talking to him, Dr. Perry asks him, from this standpoint, what of these characteristics do you see of your father? And Jordan says, I see him being vulnerable. I see him being accountable. I see him being honest and having good communication. And he acknowledges that that's different than the way he's experienced his father before. And I'm like, that's interesting. That even though on his face, he's non-expressive, even though he appears to be shut down, right? He is still absorbing what his father is saying, and he's present enough in that moment to recognize that his father is doing something different and trying something different. So they're going to sit down and watch the game together. They're going to try to do things differently. So we'll see where it goes. All right, so husband and wife, Jamil and Mark, sit down and have a conversation about the other conversation that they had the previous night. Jamil has a problem apparently with clarity because Iyanla and I heard her saying that she wanted a divorce. What she meant was she wants him to release her grip so that she can blossom into the person that is able to help him get to where he wants to be as the king on the throne. Again, I did not I didn't gather that from the conversation that she had with him that previous night, but I think that this is something that works for her. I agree that she wasn't ready to really 100% let everything go. So I think that she asked for some reasonable things. Stop raising your voice. Let's figure out how we're going to run the household together. Let's figure out how to be friends again. I'm going to move out of the room when you're at home. Um, we're going to start fresh and we're going to grow individually and together and go to therapy and whatnot. So I think she made reasonable demands, and I think that that's a really good first step. So when he started talking, I was like, nigga, like like he was like, oh, whenever I call you, you always seem exasperated, and you're like, nigga, what you want? Like that. That's how it came across to me. And Iyanla was like, y'all have been pretending that everything is good with you all, and we know it's not. So of course she gonna do stuff for her kids because those are the kids. But if she's in breakdown with you as her husband, she's not willing to do those things. So y'all have been pretending all this time that things are okay when they're not. And the way that it shows up that it's not is her non-willingness to do these types of things for you. So anyways, it felt like they actually came to an agreement because Iyanla was saying the silent agreement that you made was that she was not going to be honest with me. And by making that agreement, you dishonored and did not have integrity with Iyanla, with the process, or with your wife because you wanted her to withhold information and not speak her truth. And he accepted that. And I really hope he's internalizing this stuff because I think he's finally seeing things that he wasn't able to see before. People are able to be honest with him in ways that they weren't honest with him before. And now that he knows better, he has to do better. And that's the big test. Will he do better? We'll see. What just happened? So the episode has ended. So these are going to be my final remarks, right? So at the end of the show, we have everybody get together. They wrote letters to each other. They read their letters to each other. It came across as sincere. I think from what I saw that Mark is really willing to change. He has learned the error of his ways. And while it will not be an overnight change, that he has plans. He has intentions to change his behavior so that he can be a better father and a better husband. So I'll leave that at that, right? So next, Jaden, is it Jalen or Jaden? Shoot, I think it's Jalen. Jalen says, I know this is the end and this is the last day, but I need to talk to my grandma about some issues. So we bring in grandma. We ain't talked to grandma for the whole freaking episode. We didn't talk to grandma at all for the whole episode. There's no backstory or accountability we have from her as the mother of the person who has been the center of the family breakdown, right? So she's 73 years old. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. And she comes into the room. She has this look on her face. It's a little smug. Little sour, and the youngest granddaughter, Jalen, asks, I want to know why you never liked me, why you talked about me, why you talked about my mother in front of me. I just want to understand. And the grandma answers the question and says, I love all of my grandchildren. There's some of y'all that I don't like, and you're one of the ones that I don't like. And naturally, the young woman says, I want to know what I did to you to make you not like me. And Iyanla interrupts that, interestingly enough, in something that I had never considered. Why do you have to have done something to make her not like you? In that moment, she automatically owned and took it personally that her grandmother... No. Sorry, y'all, my dog's being weird. Absolutely not. No. In that moment, she took ownership of the fact that her grandmother didn't like her, took ownership of the fact that, of course, because my grandma doesn't like me, it has to be something that I have done. And Iyanla says, no, it's not on you that she feels that way. That's on her. Oh, your nails. Jeez. He's being needy. Hey, buddy. He's being needy. Okay. So I gotta end this. But anyways, Iyanla said, I would rather my eye fall out than for me to tell one of my grandkids that I don't like them. Even if it's not true, why would you say that? Even if it's true that you don't like your grandkids, why would you actually say that to them? So now it's to be continued. I don't know. I don't think it was Jalen's intention for them to get multiple episodes, right? Because this was already an hour and a half long episode. So we're going to be back with this family next week or whenever they choose to air the second portion of this. But Jalen, you have a future in TV, girl, because you left us on a cliffhanger. You included a person who we excluded this entire situation. And now your family gets another episode. Not saying that that was you all's goal, because I think you all did a lot of good work as a family. But I think unintentionally you found your way into a career in TV, girl, because you have extended your family's stint on this show. That is all. I think this family did some great work, and clearly there's more work to do because grandma is a part of the problem. And Iyanla needs to address it, apparently. So we're going to see what happens next time. So this means we don't even get to see the little end credits that say, you know, how the family's doing. So maybe next week we'll figure out what happens to this family. So this has been an interesting episode. I hope you all are okay with this format because I just did not feel like taking notes. But we'll see what happens next week. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And follow me on social media. Those links will be down in the description box. Additionally, if you want the Fat Ass Badass t-shirt, mug, or tote bag, please go to biggirlbody.com and purchase it. I have some discount codes. I guess I'll put that down in the description bar as well. But thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe once again. And peace out, home slices.